At least once every year, my family likes to foster cats, and that's typically around February. So we've kind of coined February as Foster February in our household. Unfortunately, this year when we signed up to foster, they had to cancel on us because there were more fosters than there were cats in need. Before deciding to push back our foster date, I started looking around at other facilities in the area that might be looking for fosters, or I was actually hoping that that day there was magically somebody looking for fosters. However, there was no immediate need during that time. So we decided to push back our foster period to March, but I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, when I was reading the foster policies of some of the other facilities that I haven't worked with yet, it definitely reminded me of how intimidating it can be when you're first starting out. Mind you, I have fostered a lot of cats, and I've even been a foster coordinator myself. And still, reading some of their policies, I was kind of like, I don't know if I could afford that if that ended up happening right now. Or I really, really hope that these cats aren't that sick because I want to integrate them with my other cats. And am I prepared to prevent my cats from getting diseases? But I'm actually in the fortunate position where I have been on the other side, and I know the entire backstory that goes into why these sorts of vetting processes are happening during the application process. And I know that at the end of the day, the rescue's intention is to make sure that the relationship between the fosters and the foster cats is running optimally. But I also know that not everybody who signs up to foster has that kind of professional experience. So when you read a policy that says something like, you are 100% responsible for any of the veterinary bills if you decide to take them to the emergency room, I can see how it may be a little bit intimidating to sign up. And so when I got back to that feeling of what it's like when you're first signing up, it honestly made me realize I haven't really been balanced in the information that I provide about how to be a foster parent. I don't think I really talked about what it's been like for me to be in one of these rare circumstances that doesn't always start out or even sometimes end in the most perfect foster experience. To be honest, I think part of the reason is that 99% of my foster experiences have been damn near perfect. However, as you can tell from the title of this video, I did experience one of those rare situations. And if I'm going to encourage people to foster, I have to at least address what it's been like to deal with one of these situations. So here's the backstory of one of the most difficult foster experiences, or maybe experiences I've had in general, and how I somehow figured out a way to turn it into something that provided more healing than pain. Okay, so boom, 2020, I'm in my first semester of college. I had a blast, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I had a lot of ups and downs. It was definitely a roller coaster experience for me. I was in the middle of the mountains in rural Tennessee, so I felt like the only thing that would make me look forward to being on that campus was if I had an emotional support animal. And I honestly did everything that I could to try to figure out a way to make it happen, but it was just really difficult. And then COVID hit, and they gave me the option to learn virtually. And I took that opportunity with no hesitation. Within just a few weeks of me leaving my campus and packing my bags, I had already started fostering some kittens. And I'm just gonna be 100%, you guys. I don't know if every rescue is gonna be happy that I'm saying this, but if you're planning on adopting a cat or a dog or any animal, I highly suggest signing up to foster first. I just think it's the best approach to choosing to adopt an animal. The foster facility that I signed up for gave us 2 cute little 6 to 8 week old kittens. We had 1 black cat and 1 tortie. I was so grateful that not only was my mom cool with me coming back for the semester, but she also let me foster. I don't know what they were thinking when they decided to name them, because I kid you not, they were like full sentences. One of the kittens' names was like Saturday Night Live, and the other kitten's name was like Midnight Horse or something, I forget. But my boyfriend came with me to pick them up, and immediately we noticed the difference in their personalities. I was originally considering only adopting the black cat because I just have an obsession with them. But after spending so much time bonding with these two, my boyfriend and I were convinced we had to figure out a plan to adopt both of them. The tortie had such a rambunctious personality. During those first 2 weeks, we upgraded their names to Fendi and Mochi. And during that time, I really started to see the impact of how I choose to raise cats and the types of personalities that being in an environment with me was starting to honestly produce. It was the first time I fostered as an adult, and I realized that my professional skills were definitely helping shape these cats into really happy babies. And then once they were a little larger, I took them to their spay appointment and I snapped this iconic photo of Mochi. However, this is also the moment that everything changed. Trigger warning for the footage coming up, because when I look back at it, like, it really does break me up inside. Seriously unfortunate situation. Now, at this point in time, it became the summer, so I was no longer in school and fully working full time. So I asked my little brother to watch the kittens, make sure that nothing happens to their incisions, while I was working at the clinic during the day. All day long, he gives me good updates, very clear photos that they look just fine. They were definitely still very drugged, but sleepy nonetheless. But when I was on my way back from work, I get a call from my brother, and he tells me he's very concerned about Fendi. I will never forget the moment when he says to me, "It looks like her heart is beating outside of her chest." Now, mind you, I just left a shift at the vet clinic and we had nothing near that emergent that day. So I felt like the likelihood of something like that happening the one time I asked him to take care of some kittens was very unlikely. Part of me thought he might have been over-exaggerating a little bit, because I do know that they just got the surgery the previous day, but my brother sounded very concerned. So I immediately FaceTimed him, and once I saw what he was describing, I knew it was 100% an emergent situation. While I was on the road in the middle of DC traffic, I was on the phone with the veterinarians, I was contacting the team, I was doing everything that I could to send them as much footage as possible, to get in communication with them as soon as possible and figure out a game plan. Within the time that it took for them to get back in touch with me and figure out a game plan, I remember like busting through the door and heading straight for her to check her TPR. Her temperature was like 101, which wasn't like too concerning for me, but her pulse and her respirations were all over the place. I then checked her surgery incision line, and it didn't look infected at all. Like, there were no problems with it. I didn't see anything oozing, anything split. It looked perfect, honestly. It looked like it was starting to heal. But when I tell you that her heart was beating out of her chest, like, it didn't even look real to me. I was only working in clinics for like at least 3 years at that time, and I'd never seen a case like that. I'd seen murmurs, I'd hear irregularities, but I'd never seen anything like that. So I put her inside of a carrier as softly as I can, and I head straight to the veterinarian on the team. It just looked so painful, and she looked like she was just doing everything that she could to find some way to get comfortable, or I don't know. I felt so freaking hopeless, you guys. It broke my heart, but I just knew that like the best thing that I could do is get her to the resources that are able to help her, like make sure that she can get where she needs to go. When I got to the vet's house, she did a TPR herself, and she told me that she definitely wanted to keep the cat with her. I explained everything that I knew and told her, you know, just call me and let me know whatever you need me to do, and please keep me up to date with her, how she's doing. She reassured me that she was going to do everything that she could to make sure the cat was okay, and she's got the emergency team preparing just in case. So we headed back home, and my boyfriend and I did not take our eyes off of the tortie. I feel like part of us was feeling like maybe there was something that we may have done wrong. I don't know. We were kind of spiraling a lot of ways. Not even an hour after dropping her off, the vet tells me she's taking her to the emergency room. At that point in time, we didn't know what the cause of it was. We didn't know if the same thing may end up happening to Mochi next. And then I think it was like 5 hours later, I get a paragraph. And it was not the news that I was expecting. The doctor said that she died of congenital heart failure. She said there's nothing anybody could have done. She was born that way. It's a birth defect. And it was all just a matter of time. And I'll be honest, my boyfriend and I bawled our eyes out that night. It was one of the saddest experiences, because death is sad in itself, but a kitten dying She was only maybe like 2-3 months old. I mean, what makes it worse is that just that morning, we were literally discussing adopting both of the kittens. I remember asking every question I could about congenital heart failure. I remember spending my break just like scrolling through Veterinary Partner, you know, that Ven site that's like I call it like a veterinary search engine, just to try to learn everything that I could about how this sort of thing happens. And I really did learn a lot about the symptoms and how diagnosis happens. I also noticed that I stopped just being okay with a basic form of care, and I started to reframe my whole approach at raising cats, specifically Mochi at that time. I never wanted her to feel like there was a part of her missing, and I honestly glued her to my hip because that's how she and Fendi were. Everywhere I could take her, I took her with me. Everything that I could learn about how to make her life better, I tried to learn. And what's crazy is this year, Mochi will be 5 and Fendi would have been 2. I look back at how much time has passed and the relationship that Mochi has with her brother now. I mean, honestly, at the time that this happened, I was focused on caring for dogs and cats. And like at that time, you couldn't tell me I would be where I am today, that everything worked out with Mochi. You couldn't tell me that I'd be signing up to foster again. And you definitely couldn't tell me that they would also have a brother now. It really makes you realize how much healing can come from tragedy sometimes. And I'm not saying this to like normalize or like get used to these kinds of situations, but it does remind me that most of the experiences that I've had fostering have been amazing. Although the ultimate goal is to just like never experience pain or tragedy, we all know that's not 100% possible. But I do feel like it helps to be reminded that it doesn't always have to be a one-to-one. You don't have to gain some and lose some. You can gain some, lose some, and then turn that into an opportunity to gain some more, if that makes sense. Anyways, this is just the mindset that really made it not that difficult for me to decide that the best thing for me to do is to continue fostering. Because despite how sad the situation was for me, I can only imagine how much sadder it would have been if I wasn't here. So to anybody out there that's considering fostering cats, please do. Don't let your fear of these rare circumstances ruin the opportunity for you to do so much more. I genuinely might not have even had this YouTube channel if it wasn't for some of the motivators after the situation. Sometimes difficult things happen, and having the strength and courage to be a safe space despite how scary things can be in the world, it can really become a lot more rewarding. I think one of like the first 10 videos I've ever made was talking a little bit deeper about the mental benefits of having an emotional support animal around in college. And I actually think I talked a little bit more about the emotional impact it had on me. I feel like this video, I didn't want to make it like too sad, but I wanted to be honest about the full spectrum of what you can experience when you choose to foster. I hope this doesn't discourage anybody and just helps better prepare future fosters. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully the next time you're tuning in, I am fostering again. Until then, you can tune in to the previous video. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.